Enough is enough. Until you state that, nothing is going to change. I was reading chapter 12 in my book, and it's titled "I've Had Enough." I was just going like, enough is enough, Doug. I was fed up and I was frustrated, and I realized it's actually okay to get pissed off to ultimately change your life. If you don't muster up some indignation, some level of frustration that causes you to finally make the move and make the changes that you want to make, that you know you need to make, not much is going to change. So don't you get sick of second guessing yourself, procrastinating, stuck in indecision, and then being critical and judgmental towards yourself that you're doing those things. It's actually quite easy to break free of the prison you're in. You can't escape a prison if you don't know you're in one. And most people are stuck in a prison of their own making. I believe it's a case of mistaken identity. The real villain is their upbringing and their conditioning, maybe the way you were treated as a kid, some of the things that you believe in that just aren't true. And so you're mistaken about you, you're mistaken about your beliefs, you're mistaken about all kinds of things, but we just kind of go through life without questioning anything. So listen, if you want to make a permanent change and let go of the past that's holding you back, or let go of anything from the past or from your current situation that's just stopping you from living a better life, or just feeling better about yourself, there's a few steps that you got to take. Number one, you've got to make a committed decision that you are done acting like a victim and feeling sorry for yourself or stuck in self-pity. Whatever feelings you're experiencing because of being stuck, or frustration, anger, resentment, guilt, regret, whatever negative emotions you have, you got to decide you're done with that. Otherwise, you'll just keep on struggling. And listen, if you don't get tough with yourself, nobody else will. And if somebody does get tough with you, try to give you an ultimatum or push you, well, generally it's conditional, and they're coming from their own mistaken identity, and trying to shore up whatever they feel they need to shore up so they feel better about being with you, working with you, whatever the case may be. So number one is you got to make a decision, and you got to get tough with yourself, because nobody else is going to do that. This is the most important part of my book. Step two. You've got to get objective about your story. Everybody's got a story. You have a story. I have a story. My story might be worse than yours. You might think your story is worse than mine. It's all relative, but everybody has a story, and you formed this mistaken identity about yourself because of that story, or maybe because of that story you made mistakes and how people treated you. You've got this mistaken view or mistaken opinion, low self-esteem, inferiority complex, failure type personality, living with guilt and shame. We're going to talk about more of that in other videos. But the only way to really break free of that is being objective about your story. So that's what I had to do. I had to get really tough with myself. I actually sat down and had a conversation with myself. Now listen, Doug, we're going to have a little chat. And so my authentic self had a conversation with my mistaken self, my false self, my ego, or my mistaken identity. And we had a really long conversation. I went out back to my home, and it was a Friday evening, and we had a very serious conversation. So you gotta have a serious conversation with yourself and get tough with yourself and demand more of yourself. And step three is you're gonna have to ignore your ego and your mistaken identity, because it does not like change. So it's great, and I'm sure you've done it before. You can go, that's it, I am changing, enough is enough. I'm freaking done with the way I'm operating, with the way I'm living, or what I'm earning, or struggling as a relationship with my health, whatever it is you're struggling with. You go, enough is enough, I'm done. And that's great, but you got to take care of step two. You got to change your perspective on your story, and then remember that your ego and false self, it's like this, I call it your cellmate. You're trying to break free of this prison. It's going, I don't know what the hell you're thinking, Doug. You're never going to break free. Remember what you did last year. Remember what you did last month, and da-da-da-da. And it loves to just chatter. That's your inner critic. It's not you. That's your mistaken identity. That's your ego chiming away, chattering away, just trying to get you to stay stuck. It doesn't want you to step up and step out, but you can. So listen, you got to get tough with yourself. You got to demand more of yourself, but it's really important that you're not hard on yourself. Okay? Your mistaken identity, your ego, they'll be really hard on you. And so you got to make sure that you don't allow that. In yesterday's video, we were talking about this idea of not taking things personally. You might want to go back and watch that if you didn't watch it, because that bridges that chapter to this chapter. I want you to think of the areas of your life where you have annoyance and frustration. Just get your pen out and make a list of the areas that you're annoyed or frustrated. Again, if you don't do this, nobody else will. If you just keep ignoring it, hoping things are going to change, nothing's going to change. You're going to wake up a year from now and you're going to be in the same spot that you were then. And so you've got to, as I said, you've got to get tough with yourself and take charge and say enough is enough, because nobody else is going to do it for you. Nobody. Decide one by one the things that you're going to change and take charge. You do this all the time with other people. If your child came to you, or your spouse or husband or wife or partner came to you and they had a problem, you're very good at moving into action. You can come up with a plan, you can move into action, and you can get things rolling and say, enough is enough, we're going to take care of this. You can do that for you too. Don't let your mistaken identity talk you out of what you actually can be doing. So listen, if you're struggling to get ahead, it's a case of mistaken identity. If you haven't got my book yet, get it. It's literally a 30-day system for letting go of all these mistaken beliefs, this mistaken attitude you have towards yourself, all the guilt, shame, trauma, any negative emotions you're carrying from the past, regardless of what you went through. It's not a book that you read, all right? It's a book that you study, you take action on, and I always tell people, just let the book work on you, and it will. Every day I get a message from somebody saying, oh my God, Doug, this book really works. I wanted to write a book that actually worked, not a book that you could just read, another book you stick on your shelf, but something that actually worked, and it does. Listen, you deserve better. Have a great day.